What is going on, guys? Blink here, back with a new guide. This guide has been requested a bunch and it'll help you guys figure out what to do if your opponent's hiding somewhere down below when you're holding the high ground. Also, the V-Bucks giveaway is still going on, so make sure to visit the link in the description to enter. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications as I post an Amazon gift card code in the comments every time I upload. By turning on notifications, you'll have a way better chance of getting here first and redeeming that code. Anyways, guys, let's get to the guide. So, in this first situation, we'll be talking about proper structure editing to find opponents below. So, I was able to finish off one of my opponents and I'm trying to get my heal off, but I end up canceling the heal a few times to build up as my opponent keeps getting closer. I do get my heal off and I'm trying to find my opponent without giving up my positioning. So, I'm shooting down a bunch of structures and my opponent's nowhere to be found. My next guess was that he's hiding inside my fort. Now, if you know your opponent's somewhere under you, then place a roof and add a trap or two on both your walls. You do this just in case he gets above you and starts shooting your roof down. That way he falls into your traps. Now, I edited my way down and I was able to find my opponent standing down below. Pre-lined up my crosshair before confirming the edit, and make sure you have your gun out except for the pump, as it has a pretty long delay to pull out. And with these new edit tricks, you never want to pull out your pump because your opponent can potentially shoot you right as you confirm the edit. So this next situation will be if your opponent's not directly under you, but he's somewhere nearby. So we had a little bit of a build battle and I was able to get above my opponent. One tip I want to mention is if you see a single stair and you know there might not be anything under your opponent, then try destroying it. I've talked about this in my previous video. You might be able to eliminate your opponent with fall damage. Unfortunately, he was too close to the build off and was able to add a floor to save himself. I was able to damage him a little and tried putting a little more pressure on him by getting closer. I ended up losing him, and this is where you have to think where you would be if you were in his position. Really jump around and look. Use floors to maneuver your way around. Now, I shot at a 1x1 down below because there was a chance he could be inside, which I was able to confirm after he rebuilt the wall. So I dropped down and all I now have to do is use the edit trick. Destroyed his wall and replaced it with mine. Made sure to have the weapon I wanted out before confirming the edit, and I was able to catch him with his map still out for an easy elimination. One tip I also want to give you guys is to use the same material as your opponent uses to rebuild his wall. If he created his wall with brick, then use brick. It'll be much harder for him to find out if you ended up replacing his wall or not. By using the same materials, you'll usually catch him with his map out if he's still focused on rebuilding that wall. So I'll show you another pretty similar situation. Now, I placed some good damage onto this opponent and tried to squeeze in some bullets. He replied back with some shots, and what I did was peek him from the right as he shot my materials. This method of peeking is pretty useful if you find yourself in a similar situation. He thinks I'm directly behind all my materials, which I wasn't, and I was able to use the peeking advantage to try to land some shots on him as he keeps his focus on my materials. At that point, I did enough damage to him to realize he was gonna try to heal. He actually tried baiting me into his trap, which was smart. If you have traps and you need a heal, then place them on one of your side walls. That way, if your opponent walks over top of your roof, you can edit your roof and make him fall right into your trap. Now, this is one thing you have to watch out for. Don't stand right on top of his roof and start shooting because you don't know if he has any traps inside. So I'll show you guys a situation where I had to box myself in and heal. After boxing myself in, I added a trap just in case my opponent walks over my roof. I'd be able to edit the roof and drop him inside. Now, I healed up and reloaded my weapons because I wasn't being pressured. If my opponent started shooting my box down, the only thing I'd try to get off is my heal and get right back to the high ground to reload my weapons. So the next thing you want to do is use the edit function to listen around and look around. You might spot some players below and maybe get a shot on them. If not, confirm the edit and build right back up. Now, my opponent was somewhere down below. I didn't want to give up the high ground, so I made sure to listen and look for him. If you can't see him, then you might hear him. Try getting used to directional sound for an easier cue on where your opponent can be. He tried building up to me and messed up, and I was able to get a pretty easy kill because of that. So in this next situation, if you're in an area with a lot of cover around, then you'll want to follow your opponent as best as you can. So we build off for that high ground, and I'm able to grab it instantly and put pressure onto my opponent. I was able to drain a good chunk of his health, and I strictly followed him to not allow him to heal. Listen for footsteps or any materials being built to help pursue catching your opponent. I find him boxed in and I replace his wall with mine, making sure to have my preferred weapon out, and I get a pretty easy kill. I was able to apply the pressure the whole way through, which gave no time for my opponent to heal. You want to be much more aggressive around areas with natural cover. He could have hid inside any of the depots, and by the time I found him, he might have already got his heal off. So if you're around any areas with many buildings around, then you'll really need to be attached to your opponent so he doesn't have any time to heal. Here's another similar example. I put some damage onto my opponent and he gets me back. I get shot at from another opponent and use my minis, and I decide to go for the push on this player before the third player interferes with the fight. Now, I never followed him right after damaging him, but I was still able to predict where he was because I can actually hear him healing and easily pinpoint his exact spot. Make sure to have some pretty good headphones and practice learning where players are by ear. The more you play, the better you'll get at it. But as I said, having some good headphones will really help. This whole guide is super sound heavy. When you're good at listening for players, you'll be prepared to have that crosshair pre-lined up for engagements and be able to finish off opponents quickly. This is super important. If your fights go on for too long, you risk players shooting you from distances or joining in on the fight, which makes it even harder. So overall, guys, make sure you're spotting, and if you can't spot anyone, then listen. Well, guys, that's it for this guide. Hopefully I've helped some people out with this video, and a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated as it does help me out a lot. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll see you on the next one.